Welcome to Lead Up, Leadership Gwinnett's podcast dedicated to showcasing community initiatives that are truly impacting our community of Gwinnett County and the incredible leaders behind them. I'm your host, Logan Serrano, Leadership Gwinnett's Director of Marketing and Communications. Today I have joining me Dr. Jann Joseph, the President of Georgia Gwinnett College. GGC is also a proud presenting partner of Leadership Gwinnett. Welcome, Dr. Jann Joseph.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Joseph has a unique and inspirational story to tell. She was born in Trinidad, and she spent her entire career working to increase educational opportunities and student success. So her first full-time faculty appointment was at Grand Valley State University in Allendale, Michigan. And since then, she's continued to expand her administrative and programmatic experiences. And as you know, she now currently serves as the president of GGC since 2019. So we're delighted to have her on our podcast today to share a bit about her leadership journey and a fantastic higher education institution right here in Gwinnett County. So Dr. Joseph, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you came to be the president of GGC?
Oh, wow. It's just been a fun story for me. Again, always committed to supporting students and serving. I moved from grad school at UW-Madison and a faculty role at Grand Valley State, as you just said. And from there, I had lots of opportunities to learn and grow because in so many ways, it was like GGC. Back, say, 25 years ago. And when I started back in 1998, it was an access campus, just as GGC is, opening its doors to everybody to give people a chance to improve their lives. So I got lots of opportunities because the campus was still in its really strong growing phase. And I was able to expand myself and to learn and to get lots of professional development opportunities, as I said. So I moved from that role in the faculty role to associate dean, then went on to Eastern Michigan University as a dean of one of its largest schools, the College of Education at the university, and really enjoyed my time there. Again, working with teachers, working with pre-service teachers, and again paying that forward, which I hope has been my journey. Then from there, I went to Indiana University, the South Bend campus, where I serve as the executive vice chancellor, which is similar to the provost job here, and had responsibility for a significant point of the institution's goals, missions, and people, human resource, oversight for academic affairs, student affairs, enrollment management, student success initiatives. It was a pretty extensive portfolio that I think really prepared me for the role to come to Georgia Gwinnett College. So a friend pointed out this position to me as I was in that interim role, in that leadership role. And I looked at Gwinnett, and I would be blunt, I hadn't heard of Gwinnett County. Of course, I was familiar with the Metro Atlanta, and just like Gwinnett, it's just this big gem, and you don't want it to be hidden. So I learned so much about the community through the interview process and preparation. So by the time I was offered a job, I was all in. So it's been 2.5 years or more since I accepted the role, almost 2.5 full years in the role, and I couldn't be happier. It's just a pleasure to serve this campus in this community.
That's awesome. And everyone that I run into that knows you just has the best stuff to say about you as a leader. And we're just really excited to have you in this role. So talking about the Gwinnett community, GGC is a great community champion. Can you talk a bit about Georgia Gwinnett's, how they contribute to Gwinnett's workforce and other ways that the college is connected to the community at large?
Well, I would start with the most important thing, and that is we are 16 years young and we have crossed more than 9,000 alums. By the time we get through this year, we would be approaching the 10,000 mark, something to celebrate. And those 9,000 alumni are in the community. More than 75% of our students have been able to stay in this metro Atlanta area and serve, and many of them in Gwinnett. I know leaders across Gwinnett, communities across Gwinnett. People have come to me and say, oh, I have students serving here. I have students, working with me there. They're sprinkled all across the community. So that's where I think is most important. But if you really want to look at facts and figures, we like the numbers. Just last year alone, Georgia Gwinnett College contributed more than 500 million to the economic impact of this community. So in addition to our students, we have direct impact through the people we employ on our campus. We currently have more than 1,000 employees on campus, and we believe we contribute up to 3,000 more employees through serving our students and the people who serve here. So when you look at our impact since we have started, we are in the billions. Wow. So in terms of buildings, infrastructure, all the things that we have contributed. So we're very proud that we are paying that forward for what has been invested in us as a campus community.
That's awesome. And just on a personal note, my husband, he graduated from GGC.
Thank you.
And an international business degree. You go Grizzlies. And now he has a fantastic job. He's doing what he loves, sales, and, kicking behind at it, just loving it. So he loves his Grizzlies and his college. So it's pretty cool.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. So GGC has been ranked as the most ethnically diverse Southern Regional College for 8 years in a row. That's pretty incredible. Can you talk a bit about DEI efforts at the college and some demographics?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're most proud of is that we're not just a diverse campus. We mirror our community.
Yes.
Georgia Gwinnett College serves Gwinnett, and there's no better way to demonstrate that than seeing that our students, who most 75% come from Gwinnett, they're Gwinnetians themselves, mirror the demographic. So we have been very careful to not just take for granted that because we're diverse, everybody's included. So we started, since I started here, an office focus on inclusion efforts. So we have been looking carefully at our hiring practices to ensure that as we hire for various roles, whether it be deans, directors, faculty, staff, that we are seeking out and searching for the best qualified candidates, but also asking people who represent our student body to come forward and apply. And we have been successful in sharing that message that our doors are open for all, and we're very inclusive. So we've had numerous trainings on campus to ensure that this is a campus where everyone feels welcome. Last year when we had several issues in our community, I personally sent messages out to the campus and really worked to tell people the story of Georgia Gwinnett, even sharing my own ethnicity, which is a multiplicity of the ethnicities of our campus. I used to joke and say, if our students all came together and combined the DNA, it would look like me, So it's just one of those things where we're very proud of who we are and we lead by example. So being ethnically diverse is one thing, but really inviting everybody to participate is something we're being careful about. Yes. Last year, our numbers went close to 25, and this year we tipped over 25% Hispanic students. So very soon we would have the official categorization through the Department of Education as a Hispanic serving institution. And our Hispanic students are very active on campus, and we're very proud of the work they're doing. So it's not just about us coming together to just be different. It's about us coming together and including everyone in the conversation. And I always tell people in this campus, we all have different roles, but equal value.
Yes, I love that. It's not just about the way we look, it's thought diversity. It's all these things, making sure everybody has a seat at the table and their voice can be heard. Right. I love that. That's incredible. So how does GGC evaluate what new programs might be on the horizon? Can you talk a bit about your program development strategy at GGC?
Well, to be honest with you, the simplest and most effective way is to listen. Listen to your community. And then you could also listen to the numbers, listen to the data. So we do get a lot of our data from the Carl Vinson Institute based out of UGA campus, which, supports data for all the campuses. So we look at the data, we look at trends, we look at market. We ask our students, what type of programs would you be interested in doing? So what we have found is that there are some programs that are very difficult to start up, like say engineering, but we do have like a pre-engineering track. And now we are exploring opportunities so that students could start with us and complete engineering programs with partners that we hope to develop within the state and outside the state as appropriate. We are exploring what grant programs we could have, but until such time as we determine what those are, we are also developing collaboration and articulation agreement with some of our campuses within USG. We are exploring cybersecurity and how we could expand that, because it is clear when you read all around you that there is a need. Microsoft just announced that they would be looking to hire 25,000 people in that area. So we have been exploring that and we're listening to what people are saying. We just put online a software development program in an online environment, again, listening to what people have been asking us. Our IT program is strong and we're trying to expand that. Our nursing program is strong and we're looking for opportunities with our partners right here for more clinical placements to expand that. Our education program is strong. And again, we're working with our colleagues here in Gwinnett Public Schools, Gwinnett County Public Schools, to see how we could expand that program and get more students earlier into the classroom. And mostly we're looking for all our students, how we could expand internships on campus, off campus, paid and unpaid, preferably paid for our students. We understand that they have to pay their bills, and just finding ways for them to learn, to do jobs, to start careers whilst they're still learning in the classroom. So all of our academic programs are geared to what are the needs for the 21st century in Georgia and beyond. In a world where people now work remotely, it's not just what's in Gwinnett County only, it's what's in Georgia and beyond. And we're asking ourselves, what can we do to better prepare our students, not for their first job, for the first, second, third, fourth, and maybe fifth jobs.
Right, exactly. And I think that's great. You're truly listening. You got an ear to the community, what's happening, what people want, but you're also connecting with community partners to try to keep people here, place them in Gwinnett, but set them up for success wherever they end up.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. We want our students to go out, even though they might be a tiny amount. I want them to be like salt. You don't have to have a whole lot of salt to make a difference in a recipe, but I think a little bit of grizzly sprinkled here and there could, because we truly believe that our students are extraordinary. They come from very difficult situations and they fight to overcome, and they're resilient and they're exceptional, and we're very proud of that.
That's really great. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I did not know how that process worked. So that's really cool. So,
Mhm.
what is one of the biggest challenges that you're facing in your role right now, Dr. Joseph, and how are you tackling it? Also, in that same vein, what is the biggest challenge that higher education is facing today?
Yeah, for me, I think we have been touching on it in some ways, and higher ed is really in a struggling time, and GGC is not exempt. Declining enrollments. Yesterday, you saw GGC, and again, this is November 2nd as we do this. Our numbers are out there showing us as a Hispanic serving institution now. The USG put the numbers out there, and we are down little more than 2% as a system, but nationally enrollments are down. So enrollments are down for a multitude of reasons, but key reason for students like ours, first generation students, minority at risk students, the key issue here is a combination of opting out for the first job where they believe that there's a salary that they can make and be okay now. And the next reason is the struggles that they've had to go through since a pandemic. So we were all expected in higher ed to see downward trends in enrollment on our campuses, and we expected those trends to mirror what was happening back in 2008 with the recession. You have to remember, if kids were not born back in 2008, 2009, did not come into college 18 years later.
Right.
You cannot go back and turn that clock back. We cannot get those kids to be born again. So the idea is not having those births. The enrollments are going to begin to have a downward trend in the next 4 or 5 years. At around 2026, 27, we should see some significant downward trend, 18 years after the last Great Recession. So across higher ed, we are all going to deal with that. But what that's going to do is create lots of competition for our students. So my biggest challenge is to get the message out to my community that we are a viable, extraordinary good option. I want people to know that we have small classes. Our average class size is around 19. We teach our first year classes, which people call our general education core, with classes of 24, where you work with a faculty, your lecture, your lab, your supplemental work. And I'm not going to say other campuses are good or bad, but in many campuses, you find that might be a class of 300-400. On the good side might be 50 to 100. We have 24. I want people to know that right after UGA and Georgia Tech, in the 26 campuses across USG, we have the next highest percentage of faculty who have terminal degrees, PhD. More than 80% of our faculties have terminal degrees, doctorates, MFAs, terminal degrees. As I repeat, only Georgia Tech and UGA have larger percentages. So we have highly qualified, highly trained, prepared faculty teaching our students. So those messages have to go out, because if we get that message out, that allows us to be competitive.
Right.
The biggest challenge we all have across higher ed is that if we are not a big established campus, like a flagship, it's branding. GGC is struggling with that as well. So for me, that's a challenge. We're working on branding, on messaging, and demonstrating our value. And we have to demonstrate our value to the taxpayers. We have to demonstrate our value to our young people, and we have to demonstrate our value to elected officials all the way across from our community to Washington. Higher ed has a lot to offer. Your college education is going to give you more than $1 million in salary over a lifetime. The more educated you are, the more likely you are to be healthy. Your whole family changes. I sit here speaking as a person whose parents didn't finish elementary school, but my children had opportunities because my parents fought for my education, and my grandchildren in a world so far removed from even mine, and is like a sliver of the idea of what my parents lived through. And they are clueless to that history because my parents fought for me. So that's what we want. We want to bring students who are disenfranchised, students who think that education is not for me. We want them to understand the value of our education. And as higher ed becomes more diverse, as more and more minority students are coming to our campuses, as our whole demographic shifts across, particularly here in Georgia, we have the challenge of getting those first generation students to our campus and to be successful. So that's happening across higher ed. But for everything that's happening in higher ed, I think is amplified here at GGC because we're such a diverse campus.
Yeah, and that's pretty powerful stuff. The power of being educated and higher education and continuing that. I mean, I loved hearing your story. It's so inspirational. So thank you for giving us that insight and sharing that bit about you. So on a more personal note, part of this podcast is to feature the leaders behind these great initiatives in our community. What does leadership mean to you, Dr. Joseph, in your own words?
Simply put, it's paying it forward. And I think how you lead is that as you lead more and more people, you now have a greater and greater responsibility to pay forward through more people. So for me, leadership is service. Leadership is supporting people to do work. Leadership is challenging your team, but standing with them. Leadership is standing beside them when they need you. behind them when you need to support them, and sometimes it's taking the tip of the spear for your team.
Mm.
So leadership for me is it's a, a broad vision here for me. It's a 360, as we call it, perspective, because the key to leading your team is to knowing when they need you to be where, but
Yes.
always paying it forward, always asking them to be their best, always challenging, and taking that responsibility to serve, to be a servant leader. People use the term, but I think it's you really need to know, what does my team need from me today? And every day is changing. So being sensitive to them, listening to them, not offering platitudes, but offering action. Don't just say, let me know how you could help, how I could help you, but say, what can I do today to ensure that you could bring your full self to this space? What can I do today for you to help you be more effective in your job? And follow it up. Don't break promises. Follow it
Yes.
up. Build trust. Don't break your promises.
Wow, that is spot on, what a leader is. And that's pretty great stuff. It's servant leadership. We need more of those people now more than ever. So it's pretty incredible to hear that there's people out there like you doing that. So
Oh,
that's
thank
great.
you. I always
Yes.
say, if you want the job too much, you can't do it.
Yes.
I think sometimes people get so caught up in the title of these leadership
Mhm.
roles, President Joseph or Director so or Dean this and we get so caught up in the all the trappings
Mhm.
of the office. And we get to hold these offices for a short time. We get to sit in these chairs for a limited time. And the question I ask myself, and I remind my team every day, how am I leaving it better for the next person? How am I making sure that every decision I make is not for me today, but for the person who would sit in this chair behind me? The
Yes.
decisions I make must be ones that the person comes behind me understands what I did. Now, they may do it differently in hindsight, but they need to know that I took everything into account and tried to leave it better than I met it for them.
That's awesome. That's really good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. So you're obviously a really well-educated person, but on a different note, are there other places that you self-educate? What do you do now to keep up, your
Yeah, well,
education?
I have this thing about I don't start meetings until 9, and everybody laughs and says, okay. But somewhere between, I would say 6:30 and around 8 o'clock in the morning, I tend to kind of catch up on what's happening in the world. So the agency is open and I read through that. Gwinnett Post and I read through that. So I start at home,
Yep.
Then I go through the Chronicle and one of the big stories in the Chronicle of higher education. Then I need to understand what's happening in university business and finance, because such a big portion of the job. So I'm reading into universities business. Sometimes I read a piece from Inside Higher Ed, which has different things that come out. I get news streams coming from my professional organization, from the American Council on Education, where I sit on the Women's Network Executive Council, where we support women leaders across higher ed. I read about what's happening with ASCU, which is another association for state colleges and universities, and I read what they're sending out to people. And I just keep informed. Sometimes it's diversity in higher ed and what's best to support students like my students. So I read a multiple things, and then I finish up my email that I missed the night before. And then I get dressed and come to work and start all over again.
Oh
So
my
I
goodness.
put a couple hours in just reading, and I love podcasts for fun. So I'm kind of geeky. So sometimes, it's like 99% Invisible and TED Talks and TED Health and, financial planning. So I'm a podcast person when I'm on the road, and it's just kind of fun reading about data and
Yeah. Yeah.
different trends and stuff. So I kind of read a lot of the podcasts that come out of the NPR news streams, and Fresh Air is one of my favorites. And yeah,
Sure.
so I kind of listen to podcasts and I read a lot. And when
Yeah.
I'm just tired of reading stuff, then I would read David Badalchi for fun and John Grisham for more fun. And
Oh yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all I was going to ask.
I have my candy books too. I call them my
Yes.
candy
I was
books.
like,
Yeah.
what do you do for
Mhm.
fun? Or is
Yeah,
that your fun? But I see.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
And I love
Gosh.
crafting and sewing and oh, and I'm happy it's in my garden, potting it around. And right now I'm
Yes.
trying to figure out why my pond is losing water. I have to kind of find that leak, and but it's kind of fun. I just love playing in the garden and planting flowers and
That's incredible.
working with my
Goodness.
hands. Yeah. Mhm.
I'm definitely not doing enough with my time. So
Oh no, I watch Netflix too. I'm not like
okay.
superhuman.
Okay, good. I was like, wow, she
Starting
is.
over all my Star Trek episodes again.
Oh, I love that. That's great. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So, finally, the last question here. How can community leaders best support you and the work you do with GGC?
You know, the key for me, I want them to remember why. I hear the stories of how community leaders fought for this campus. We are a four-year institution. We provide a really good option for a four-year degree. And one of the biggest things I struggle with in this community is that I meet people far and wide, sometimes people who I think should know, who still think that we are a two-year institution.
Mm,
Um, I think if they have opportunities, come to campus, ask us to host events on campus. We're always open to that. So people could come and see who we are. It's difficult to see the campus as you drive by, and I'm working on that to make sure that our perimeter area says more about what's happening at the core campus, but tell our story. I'm just one voice. I ask all my students to be voices with their colleagues and their peers. I ask my faculty and staff to be that, but I need my community leaders to say who we are, say the truth of who we are, tell of the struggles that we're facing, but tell of the hope and aspiration that everybody had for this campus that I adopted as my own. And I hope to see that fulfilled in the next 10 years. Tell the story. Tell the story that we're 16 years young, but we still need help. Tell the story that we're just like the average teenager. We're not quite big and we're not small enough either to cuddle, but we're not old enough to leave alone. So we still need support. We still need people to champion for us, support us, provide for us, advocate for us, and tell our story so that we could launch at 25, in 9 years from now, a campus that the community I know is proud of, but could be really proud to say we were there when it started. We fought for it, and look at it now.
that's awesome. That's incredible. And, Leadership Gwinnett, we love you guys. We try to do everything we can to amplify what's going on there. So, in just this podcast alone, so we will shoot this off to all of our folks. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing. And we're all out of time today, but thank you so much, Dr. Joseph, for spending the morning with me, giving our audience the chance to get to know you a little bit better and to give us a scoop on Georgia Gwinnett College. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Lead Up.
Thank you. Bye bye.